Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Chris, aka What Can Brown. I have an interesting topic for you today, and that is rare records, in this case Blue Note, in bad condition. This is a little bit in reaction to, I'll say, not necessarily YouTubers or Instagrammers in particular, but just more like the general collecting community. This idea of, listen, like, poor condition records is a part of the collecting journey. Okay, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are really truly only prioritizing near mint records, or only showcasing those on social media, right? But for most of us, getting poor condition records is just part of what you do. And sometimes people just continue to prioritize those, right? Because they're not as expensive. Other times it's just a step on the collecting journey. Maybe you want to get a placeholder copy until you get that super nice copy at some point in the future. But more and more, these rare records are just getting out of hand, out of out of the realm of possibilities for most folks. And over the years, one thing that I've realized actually that kind of surprised me is that as soon as I got a copy of a record, especially like an early pressing, if not an original, like a very early pressing, as soon as I got a copy of an original, I kind of stopped prioritizing trying to find another, and like upgrading it, or it just kind of fell off my radar. It was almost like a check mark, like, oh, I have it. So recently I was cataloging my Discogs collection, and I wanted to take a look at the condition of each of the records so I could put that into to Discogs as well. And I realized that I just have a ton of, not like a ton, but like more than I should, a number of Blue Note records that are quite rare, but man, they are not in great shape. And it really annoyed me. And I thought, perhaps the typical reaction to this would be, I just won't talk about that when I post about these records. And so instead I was like, no, you know what? I want to like call this out. Because I think it's kind of funny. It's kind of fun to see like really rare records in bad condition. I don't know. I just thought it'd be a fun topic. So let's get into that. I think I've got 7 that I'm going to highlight today. They're all Blue Note. And they're all early, right? They're like the 1500 series, otherwise very desirable records, except probably in this condition. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm actually going to, we'll flip to some close-ups of some of these, like the vinyl surface, just so you can really get a good idea of how exquisite these copies are. And then, to the extent that I can, I'm going to tell you the price that I paid. And I know that that's a little tacky, right? A lot of times people don't like to talk about the price they paid. This is like a, I don't know, a therapeutic session for me, right? And so I'm kind of inviting myself to either comments like, why would you pay that much for a record you're not even going to enjoy playing? Or maybe for some of these, I actually haven't looked up any of these yet to research how much I paid, so it'll be interesting to see. Maybe some of these still ended up being a good deal, right? Because we see all the time like G copies or fair copies on eBay going for big money, and it always annoys me. So this is going to be an interesting kind of look back in my collecting history. So I hope you guys enjoy. So we're going to take these one at a time, and the first one that I wanted to show you is this guy right here. So John Jenkins and Kenny Burrell, Blue Note 1573. Look at that lineup. Sonny Clark, Paul Chambers, Danny Richmond. Are there any others? No, that's it. They're all on the cover. So great record, right? Like, look at this. Like, this is like, 1500 series. It's rare. But if I flip it this way, right? Like, what the heck happened to that cover? Well, obviously it's water damage. So flip it over and you can see, a little bit of evidence of water damage. Listen, I'm sure I saw this in the eBay listing, and I still pulled the trigger. But look at that. Look at that wave. Isn't that, man, you've seen Warped Records. This is a pretty significantly warped cover. So let's take a closer look and see what that vinyl surface looks like. All right, this is one of those things where like looks can be deceiving, right? Because if all you saw on an eBay listing was just this, then you'd be like, oh my God, it's a for promotion, promo copy, like looks great, look at all that gloss. It's all about the angle with these things though, right? So, as good as the record might look, you start going and taking, different angles and stuff, and you start seeing other marks in the vinyl. And if we follow this along, yikes, look at, well, so first of all, okay, I understand. This thing's dusty. I don't play it that often. I need to send all these through a VPI, but that is a feelable scratch. You can definitely feel that with your fingernail. We just travel along up here. We see more long scuffs, right? I mean, I will say this thing isn't like completely trash. Oh, look at those needle drags, right? But you know that this is going to cause noise. This is just not, it's not an ideal condition for this record. Funnily enough, this is actually one of the better conditioned records that I'm going to show you. So what did this particular record set me back? I'm a little embarrassed actually, because I'm going to have to give you a placeholder number. I want to say it was $175. It could have been more. I thought that I was going to be able to look in my Gmail, like eBay and Discogs history, and find it really easily. This particular one, I couldn't. I'm embarrassed, but I think it was somewhere around $175. So you may be thinking, oh, as long as it's playable and those scratches didn't look too bad, right? Well, side 2 is actually just a little bit worse. I'm actually going to do some live here. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, those are all feelable. How about that? So, as decent perhaps as the other side looked at first glance, I would call this back section trashed. All right, let's keep the fun going. Number 2 that I have for you today, another rare run. Rare one. Man, Lee Morgan's Indeed, right? 1538. Listen, we know this one's rare. It's got the, the frame cover. I don't know if that's possible to see, but it's got the frame cover. Front of the cover, it actually doesn't look that bad, right? And even honestly, the back, I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, this is one of those like Lexington covers. What can you really expect with these things in terms of how well they've held up? If you can see here though, you can see, evidence of tape that used to be probably on every seam. Nah, not the top seam, but like, the side and the bottom seam. Is this thing fully split? Oh, weird. Actually, there's like not really split. But it's super rare record, right? I was just happy to get a copy. And yet, I mean, Lee Morgan. I mean, what was I supposed to do, right? If I come across a copy that like is in lesser shape. But let's take a look and see exactly what shape I got to accompany this cover. All right, so here is the record for, well, it says presenting Lee Morgan, but of course it's Indeed. They just had a different title on the label. You can already see what's going on here, right? Like, check out the run out there. You can see like some of these scratches and stuff that's showing up. I tell you what we're going to do, though. We're going to bring this one right into the sun really quick, just to show you really quick, like, much more easily, some of the scratches that are just sort of, really all over the surface of this guy. What is that going on in there? That's, I've actually tried to remove that. That won't go away. So yeah, you can just kind of tell some of these are feelable, some aren't. Again, there's some gloss left. I can actually spin this thing and I don't think that it skips, but really, this is not in great shape. Side 2, you'll note, is not really any better. This thing is, like I said, it's playable, but more issues on both sides. So I've owned a few of these actually over the years, attempting to get upgrades, and instead all I've been doing is upgrading G to G to G. This particular copy that I have right here, I actually only paid $50 for. I don't think I regret this one. I hope you're having a good time with these, because I know I am. This is such a pleasant trip down memory lane. So next one up, another trumpeter, another 1500 series Blue Note. This is 1535, Kenny Dorham's Afro-Cuban. Iconic album, technically a reissue of a 10-inch, right? But great lineup. You've got Hank Mobley on this thing. Who else is on this? I forget. Cecil Payne. I mean, Horace Silver, Art Blakey. I mean, this is this is classic stuff. And actually, you know what? This cover isn't that bad. It's not really the indication of this being a poor condition. Although, actually, whoa, look at this. Look at this. Forgot about that. Full bottom seam split, basically. generally speaking, like a split isn't going to be something that's going to completely prevent me from buying a record, especially something like this. But yeah, another frame cover, Lexington, etc. Let's take a closer look at this vinyl.
All right, the wear around the deep groove of this one is probably a good indication that this thing has been stacked with other records outside of its cover. Let's take just a quick look, and you'll see, yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on here, and that carries through on both sides. That guy right there is indeed feelable, and again, I mean, I'll say like there's some gloss here, and I have played it, and I probably will again. What did this one set me back? I actually bought this in 2017. You'd think that I'd have this like crazy price, like $5 or something. Spent $275 on this copy.
All right, it's too bad you all aren't in the room with me because I can actually smell this one. So this is introducing Johnny Griffin, also called Chicago Calling, apparently. I don't know. People know this one is introducing Johnny Griffin, but on the back it says Chicago Calling Johnny Griffin, 1533. So pretty early. Want to say that this is well, I know it's a Lex cover. Yeah, Lexington vinyl. It doesn't look that bad from like afar. I mean, you can see, look, you got some creases there. There's obviously ring wear. Maybe a little bit of chewing there, right? Like probably not a cat or a dog. What was it? I don't know. But you got some clear tape here. Doesn't prevent just really ugly splitting. The back of this thing, I mean, I don't even think that's worth cleaning up. There's just like this constant kind of like, I should probably have gloves on. This like, just kind of dirt that just cakes the back of the record. I remember this thing coming in and being super excited about it though. I mean, and maybe I would be today too. I don't know. I mean, how else am I going to get this record unless it's a reissue, especially these days. So anyway, yeah, yet again, I mean, cool record, happy to have it. It's fun. I could, put it up on Instagram, but what does that vinyl look like?
All right, we've all heard the adage that that Blue Note Plastilite records play better than they look, right? Play like a full grade up, or whatever people say. And sometimes that actually is the case. This is a good example. This record visibly has probably, kind of some of the same marks that you've seen on some of those other records that I've covered thus far. And a number of these are kind of ugly. And funnily enough, this thing just plays like, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not like a VG Plus record. But it plays like probably closer to like VG minus, and even in areas VG. A lot of this stuff is surface. I think barely, there are a few small feelables in here, don't get me wrong. But this thing does play just a little bit better. I guess the question that I have for everyone is, does that justify the $300 that I paid for this record in 2019?
All right, if you're following along, we've covered 4. This is number 5, and that is the magnificent Thad Jones. Blue Note 1520, what is this? 1527. Lexington copy, got the frame thing and everything. If you take a closer look at this, you'll realize that a previous owner decided to outline the words magnificent and Jones in pen, which, I appreciate. There's some lovely browning, sort of browned or yellowed tape coming up here and all along the bottom. There's tape up top, certainly tape on the sides. I mean, this thing is, it's not in great shape. Probably fully split. Let me see if it's still fully split. I mean, even with the tape, sometimes these things are fully split. But, you got a little bit of lost cover image there. Some people prioritize covers, and I think the evolution of my collecting was probably, I need to get a copy as original as possible, and then can I get one that's as original as possible but maybe with a little bit better vinyl? And probably the last step is like, can I make sure it also has a nice cover? The whole adage, you can't play the cover, right? But I probably took that to the extreme, because even in this case, I don't know if you can play that vinyl.
This is another one from 2017, actually. Must have had some money burning a hole in my pocket or something. This one is, kind of similar to the previous one, actually. Has a lot of kind of like light swirl marks all over the surface. Maybe hard to tell. A couple of more significant things there, right? Thing actually plays better than it looks. I know that everybody wants to say that about really anything that they have. Anyway, fortunately, it does play better than it looks. I still do listen to this from time to time, and this one set me back $110.
All right, we're getting down to the last two. This next one is, gosh, another classic, actually another trumpeter. Early on in my collecting, and I can tell that these are from like early in my collecting because I haven't been buying stuff in this shape in a while. I was prioritizing the trumpeter stuff. I'm a former trumpeter myself, and just always appreciated their other stuff. And we've got 1524 Kenny Dorham at the Cafe Bohemia, around about midnight at the Cafe Bohemia. Again, framed cover. I'm going to try to do one of these where you kind of like tilt it and like hopefully you can detect the lack of sheen. I know that this isn't supposed to be laminated, but even decent quality copies of these unlaminated stuff should have a little bit of sheen that casts a little bit of light. There is some natural light in here, so maybe it's casting some of that. But I promise you, this thing has like no sheen on it. A little bit of like lost, pieces of the image here in the ringwear. This thing is probably fully split. Yeah, I mean, it's sure getting there. And she kind of want me to like grab like one part of it with each hand and like just rip the rest of it. So yeah, great record. Great folks on it. I have spun this, although not lately. So anyway, yeah, let's maybe the vinyl's near mint. Let's check it out.
All right, this is the best condition one that I've showed you, at least thus far. I would say even like visually, this one isn't as bad as many of the others. It doesn't have these like huge significant issues with it, but it's still, it still does have some scratches. It definitely isn't, it's far from perfect. Has noise, probably still, VG minus to, I don't know, maybe VG. I bought this record all the way back in 2015, pretty early on in my collecting. And this one set me back $181.
Okay, this is number 7 of 7. There probably are more in my collection, but I literally went from like the early part of the catalog just to see if I could find like the ones that would be just like the biggest shame to have in bad condition, right? And this one, okay, this is a little bit of like, this process has depressed me a little bit. So this one's a little bit of like a mixed story on condition. And that is, anyway, Paul Chambers Quintet, 1564. You've got Donald Byrd, Cliff Jordan, Tommy Flanagan, Paul Chambers, Elvin Jones. Super cool. You can kind of see from there that there's discoloration, right? Like Tom Hannon, the cover designer, did not intend that to be brown, or really most of this thing to be brown. And like that first one that I showed you, there is quite a bit of warp here. You'll see something in there. There's actually an inner, like a record, packaging like inner that I stuck in there at some point to presumably try to keep the shape of this thing. I don't know. I should probably take that out. I also don't think that there's any ability to like flatten this. So that's just a losing proposition if you try to do that. So anyway, yeah, I mean, you can see the damage on the back as well. Again, very intentionally pulled the trigger on this. It's not like I didn't see it in the listing. No, I wanted this record, and I was just hoping that it would be playable. So again, I said a mixed message on this one. Not quite as sad of a story. Let's take a quick look at that vinyl.
All right, I mentioned that this is a little bit of a mixed story. I confess that cover is not great. It was advertised as G. It is G. But when I got this in, I was just like really psyched that at least, please focus, there we go. At least okay, it's dusty. I need to do something about that. But at least there isn't much going on here, right? You got this guy right here, but it's not feelable. I was really happy with this. I happily spin this record. It's rare. Yeah, the cover is messed up. I'm never gonna find another one. This one set me back $311. That was in 2020. early 2020, so not pandemic prices. Curious what this cover, or what this record even with that cover, would go for today.
All right, so what do you think? I've kind of put myself out there. I've highlighted 7 records that perhaps were questionable purchases. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it, and I will see you next time.